Well, welcome back to my Why podcast. This is the podcast where I talk to creatives and entrepreneurs and ask them about like their passion and what they do and why they do what they do. And this is something that I just want anybody who sees any of these episodes to be able to get fuel to want to follow their passions and inspire them to follow their dreams. And today we are going to be talking about all things the arts. And I'm super excited because we are talking to Divine Okechukwu. He is a Nigerian-American award-winning international touring musician, educator, and owner of the Okechukwu Studio for the vocal and theatrical performing arts. Additionally, he is an interdisciplinary artist, composer of music, literary arts, poetry, a fashion designer, and healing recording artist with a focus on using music agency for advocacy. He is also the director in marketing social media. Marketing social media for the Miss Tourism USA Foundation that advocates for women's empowerment, domestic violence, and human trafficking. And there's so many more things that he is, but most importantly, he is a light to this world. Welcome, Divine, to the show.
Hi, hello. Oh my gosh. Hi, thank you for having me. Oh my goodness.
And of course, I have to give you a proper greeting.
Hey,
And I'm just so excited to have this conversation about the arts because I think it's just a form of expression that is not spoken about enough and kind of gets lost in the translation when with the tech boom and everything going on, that the arts is just so still very much important to this world. So let's go ahead and just get right into it. So
work.
as I mentioned in your introduction, you have been in so many avenues in the arts. Like, what inspired you to get into the arts in general? Has it started since you were a child? Like, what inspired you to kind of be in this lane of the world?
Gosh, I always tell people, there's the long, really inspirational version, and then there's the actual version. So let's start with that one first. It's ADHD. Yeah. Yeah, it's ADHD, undiagnosed. Let's see. So, I mean, honestly, I can't help it. I can't help it. I've always been this way. I've always been um, someone that has really tinkered with all of what life has to offer and turning that into artistry. Um, eh, eh, let's see, to be really frank, I mean, since I was a kid, I've been around creatives, but they weren't creatives in the way that you would see. They were Nigerians. And Nigerians in itself are very creative people. I mean, we know how to turn a situation back into light in any kind of aspect. And that's literally what my parents had to do when bringing me here, as well as like other family members. It was a whole moment. I mean, but I came from a really scientific family, very numbers, very mathematics and sciences and literacy, but I also from that got the itch to learn more, to
Yeah,
literally grow in what I was surrounded by. And I just turned out a little bit different from the rest of my family. I decided to use art as my vessel, but still have a really big appreciation for the world around me. So, like, even in high school, like, I was doing academic team, and I was answering all sorts of like science and math questions. But then I turn around and I'd be doing marching band and choir and theater and all this other, you know what I mean? Just everything. But um, really, I mean, in the end of the day, it was people not knowing I had ADHD and that really working well for me.
right. It worked out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but I think the most beautiful part about it is, um, to anyone who's neurodivergent, and I think they'll agree with this, the fact that, it's one thing to, understand that part of yourself. It's another thing to be in a space where that's welcome and encouraged, and then that is turned back into your strength, back into your mastery.
Yeah,
So, that's why I kind of describe myself, if anything, as an interdisciplinary artist, because to master one aspect of my artistry, I actually have to know way more about other facets and how they come together. To even be a musician, I can't just be a musician. I have to kind of put the artist hat down and, think like a marketer, um, think like a philosopher, think like so many other things that a musician otherwise, you wouldn't think they would have to be. Um, and in this world, yeah, it definitely is the case. You definitely have to be a little bit more than what you think in order
Right.
to become that being and everything. Yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned like you said that was actually going into my next thought, my next question for you. Like you mentioned being a professional touring musician, or I mentioned
Mhm.
we're talking about that, and like what was your journey on your on that just that journey of that, and then you being a singer and all of that. Like what did that where did it start, and what does it look like for you? What did it look like for you then, and the whole.
Well, I'll tell you what, it is not what you expected, right? Because again, I came from Nigerians. It was, artistry, especially in the late 90s and everything. It was kind of like clownery. Like,
Mm,
you're going to be a what's an artist? No, no. So I mean, and especially coming from a family that was a bit more traditional when it came to what it meant to express your masculinity and all that fun stuff. Um, it really was just growing up, it really was just a way for me to understand the world, and it came to me so uniquely. I didn't even realize this until later on in college, but I wrote my first piano piece when I was 7, and I
wow.
didn't even know that I was doing it. I didn't even know that I was, like, making that, but then, if I
Right,
was around a piano right now, I could
right.
show you, and you go, "You wrote that?" And I go, "Yeah, oh,
Wow. You know what's funny? Usually people when you're in what you do, what I mean, and when you're sorry, when you're good at whatever discipline that you have and you do, it doesn't feel like what do you mean? Yeah, this is easy. Yeah,
Right.
this is
It's like speaking.
you can't
It's
do this?
very
No, I can't do that. Like,
I mean, it's kind of and that's how you can, tell whether you're religious or not, like, that really is spirit kind of, like, speaking back to you in a way.
mhm,
Let's see. So when I was in elementary school, I started trombone in the third grade, and then from there in school, I kept it going. I was in jazz band and symphonic band and all that fun stuff. But then I also was a visual artist,
mhm.
all around that same time. And even by mid-middle school, I was getting paintings being hung in the George Washington, um, let's see, university, like, library
Wow.
and everything. Like, it was crazy. But what really started singing, coincidentally, I mean, Nigerians, we are a very kind of vocal community in terms of how we sing is not just for singing, but it's expressing history and
Mhm.
communication and especially celebration, liberation. So I
Wow.
always got that, from my parents, except I always say my mom sounds like a cat, my dad sounds like a dog. So whenever I sat in between them in church, it was going, I mean, during worship service. So I was like, okay, well, that's where I got my projection, I guess. Let's see. But I mean, things didn't really start, I guess I didn't realize, who I was even remotely supposed to be as an artist until, I was in high school, and it was after marching band season, and I was on my way to lacrosse practice when suddenly, I don't know what kind of turn I took, but next thing you know, I was in Oklahoma, let's see, auditions. And yeah, singing was like the final frontier for me.
Wow.
Because I didn't think I had that in me. And then
Mhm.
suddenly here's this, old white lady, stout white lady, very staunchy. Her name is Miss Nancy Tittleball Riley. Yes, ma'am. And she took one, she just heard me speak. She
Mhm.
just heard me speak and she said, "Right, come on.
Mm.
Let's have you audition for this." Next thing you know, I'm getting callbacks, and literally by the end of that year, I performed, and this was like freshman year. By the end of that year, I performed in the Kennedy Center for the first time, and that definitely wasn't going to be my last time.
I'm gonna pause you right there for a second. What was that feeling? when you performed for that first time?
Oh my gosh. It was magical. It was magical. And I think it wasn't even just the fact that I was in the Kennedy Center about it. It was who I was with.
General,
It was
yeah.
the community I was with. It was the fact that here are kids that are just as nerdy about this as
Mm,
I am. And, me being like a scared little band kid, at least, I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't know. And it was that same community that said, you better sing, you better work, you better do
wow.
your thing. And, that turned from one opportunity to me doing that consecutively for 4 years and opening it and receiving, let's see, I think just three more awards,
Mm,
just even before college. It was manic. It was manic. Um, honestly, but it went from just like trusting that I had the agency to speak even possibility back into my space to becoming a leader, and realizing even, that was the case, when I was coming up in high school. So, of all things that I wanted to do with that art, I knew that part of me needed to give it back. And so I wanted to pursue education.
mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, I wanted to pursue performance too. I love performance, but like education was what really struck a chord with me. So I was like, all right, I want to be an educator. My mom's okay with me being an educator, which was the important part, right? You can't. A lot of Africans will kind of attest to this. They don't go into arts willy nilly. It's kind of you kind of
Yeah,
have to really need approval from your parents. I mean, you don't need it, but like,
but it's
it's
good to
nice.
yeah, it's nice to have. So like, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
Of course, yeah,
I,
please.
I asked this before I forget. In that moment where that teacher, Miss, you say Miss Nancy,
Yeah. Miss
felt
Riley, Miss Riley, yeah.
Miss Riley, when can you imagine? Like that was such a divine intervention moment for you that in your life.
Mm,
She said, "You come with me."
literally.
It was like that. I can imagine thinking back for you, not like realizing how much that 1 second of a come with me shifted so many things for you. That
It, it,
I mean,
and honestly, it's kind of funny because life is still doing that. Like it's not so big and boasty when it comes to showing me my next opportunity. It really is if I'm paying attention, if I'm staying still and
mm.
listening and really listening to God, it is as simple as what is that one little trend? Literally.
Period.
Literally, literally. Oh my gosh. And the way, like, but it takes a lot of diligence. Whether you're a child, a whole adult, or, an old man, it takes a lot of
To
diligence and
be
a lot of
still.
patience to be still
Ooh.
and see it happen unfold. And,
Preaching to
trust,
me, I know
okay,
why. You preaching to me right now, but go ahead.
Girl, truly though. Oh my God. And and she wasn't the only teacher. I really do thank my past teachers for just giving me the space, just giving me the space.
Yeah.
Not even telling me, okay, what I'm supposed, what I'm meant to be and all of that stuff. There are little moments, all throughout my career where I did get hey, can I pop the bubble real quick? This is what's
Mhm.
gonna happen. And I really appreciated those moments, and I appreciate it even more when my teachers just trusted me to grow and
Yeah.
go, okay, here's the space. What can you do about it? My brand director saw me, and he said, okay, you're not just a trombone player, you're a composer. So I'm gonna make sure y'all get all your gots in music theory. And it was enough in high school. Listen, by the time I got to college, I was passing out of them classes. I didn't need to stay in
Wow.
all those academic classes. I don't think that's quite a flex. I don't know if that's a flex or not. It just showed that like I wasn't just taught composition, I was taught how to put my voice back in so many different
Yeah.
mediums and be really confident about it. And I think that was my main kind of drive of even, pursuing education as well. Um and even like in performance realizing, hey, I'm still teaching something to someone. Um so, by the time I got to college, I mean, I kind of like exploded and all that. I remember I was president of the American Choral Directors Association at James. I went to James Madison University,
Mhm.
and I got to lead a whole team that put giant events together to bring other students in and create choral excellence, and really create like a really amazing time. I got to lead a whole trombone section in the MRDs. I got to be in all sorts of main stages. I got to literally even do a pilot dissertation on the psychology and the neuroscience of synesthesia, something I didn't even realize I had until college. And
Wow.
then put that back into a whole visual art gallery so
Mm.
people could understand the fact that these forms are not just to, behold, but to help connect and help create more conversation. And that's why we're all here.
Y-
Um, yeah, I mean, and it just, it was educators like Nancy, it was educators like Heather Helsel, let's see, like Joan Van der Krame, like David Otis Castonguay, um, that helped me see, okay, like it's way more than just me. It
Yeah.
is way more than just me, when it comes to artistry, and it really is community. But to pursue artistry, it will disrupt your sense of community, especially if you're black, and
Mm.
especially if you're black going in a white space, especially if you are a black individual with so much light and hope in you that's going to opera. Did you hear it's a dying art?
Mm. Mm.
So now, it was, that was a really different and, awesome experience for me. I mean, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have the pedagogy that I have. But yeah, it almost, knocked the wind out of me just even trying to train for it
Yeah.
because, it showed me in real time this world does not need to make a space for me if it does not see me, fit for it. Um, and it really took a lot of perseverance on my own part and just understanding who my tribe was, regardless.
Right.
Um, and keeping it pushing anyway. And yeah, but yeah, it's a journey. It's a journey, and that's like just getting into like the schooling of it all.
Yeah. So, like, speaking of like what you were speaking about, well, you're joking, but opera being maybe a dying art,
Hmm.
and before I would say before the early 2000s, art was treated at a higher level. Like the arts. So you can think of all the disciplinaries that come with that. Were treated
Hmm.
much at a higher level before the early 2000s because that's really when the internet started hitting really big. Like what do you why do you think the arts aren't being as valued as they once were? And in your view, your point of view, because you are a teacher as the arts as well, so you're seeing the upcoming kids and adults and everybody that's whoever you're teaching, like you're seeing how they're learning as well. So like what is your thoughts, like what are your thoughts about the arts, or is it a die? Is it dying? I don't know. I'm saying from my perspective, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, I always love your perspective. Let's see. I think that's why I said yes immediately when you asked me to do this. Let's see. But let's see. Opera being a dying art, I do agree with it, but also understand this. Art and music, especially, is a discipline that is supposed to change,
mm,
right?
mm,
When I say opera is dying, I mean opera as we know it
oh,
is dying. It's at its last leg. Doesn't mean it's over. Oh no, but if anything,
it's
it's
shifting into
it's
whatever
shifting.
now. Okay.
It's shifting into original concepts, original let's see, original compositions with voices and stories from the present,
Hmm.
right? Voices and stories from let's see, even these past century tribulations. I always joke, especially with other opera singers, that I'm tired singing Mozart. I'm tired of
Hmm.
Puccini. He's had enough of my time. Bach, forget about it. All right. Beautiful pieces,
Yeah, yeah.
lots of art. And, and from that, we've learned a lot. So we've learned so much more about theatrical arts and everything through it. If we want to see art really set forward and spring forward into, the new generation that's starting to even see, our current genres of music and go, mm-mm, I don't know if I like all this. We have to really form it in a way where they can see themselves. And that's what I mean. Opera originally, in the 1500s and even before, when it was still just workshopped in the Medici's mansion and everything.
Okay,
Um,
okay,
oh
history.
yes,
Well,
yes,
that's not.
yes,
Mhm.
yes. Because I was like, if I'm going to be a part of this history, I need to understand what the history is. And the history is, it's always been a kiki. It
Mhm.
has always been a kiki, and it's always been people that love to create and love to express the affections or the emotions of the heart,
Mhm.
having fun with expressing that back. We've
Yeah.
gone through a whole history of that being classified or being, in classical music and being like marginalized. And, it's gone through classism, it's gone through racism, it's gone through all sorts of things.
Mhm.
We're not in that era anymore. No
Mhm.
matter what you're seeing in the news, we're not in that era anymore.
Mhm.
So opera as we know it, no matter how much we want that Mozart, it's going to be one day that we're going to take a break on Mozart and we're going to start lifting up voices. We're going to be lifting up voices of MLK, of Gandhi, of us. And it's interesting too, because even opera singers, I think, when it comes to their identity, that's starting to really shift. They're not seeing themselves just as opera singers anymore. They're starting to literally pull themselves out of those boxes that academia kind of put them in so they could follow the technique and follow the form. They're
Yeah.
going, wait, no, I like jazz. I like pop. I want to sing musical theater. That doesn't have to be just like one thing that I put on my recital set. I want that to be a part of my life.
Yeah.
And even more than that, I know opera singers that are accountants and that are Reiki specialists, that are, I mean, educators, of course, but also, have gone into rap and R&B. I know, I think at this point now we're realizing we can be way more than what we were set up to be.
Mhm.
And I think what we were even set up to be initially, is a joke compared to who you actually are meant to be as a person, who God really wants you to see you become,
Right.
and everything. So yeah, I mean, so that's what I mean when I say like opera as we know it is dying. And honestly, thank goodness, because it's time for this next generation, if they're going to use their prowess in the highest magnitude, because that's what opera is. It's
Mhm.
using your vocal prowess to its optimal magnitude, to the point where you don't need microphones and you
Right.
can still outstretch your voice way, 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 into stadiums and everything.
Right.
If we're gonna really trust this next generation with something like the operatic classical arts, this script needs to change.
Mhm.
They need to see themselves in it. It needs to be about them, not about what we are trying to uphold, and not about all these old dead white people. Sorry to the other old dead white people, but like,
I mean,
sorry.
but can you imagine? Not even. Can you imagine all the work, even from people of color that were suppressed, that you won't even hear about, that that their work might have been stolen and somebody else's name on it. Like I think about
Mm,
all of that too, because I feel like you know, um, they still deserve the voice in what it is. And a lot of that stuff, unfortunately, because of slavery, because even before then, like it's just a lot of people were singers and composers were suppressed, and
right,
not nobody knows about them. And
right.
I always go to that in my mind, like, dang, can you imagine the amount of people of color, particularly, that you just don't even know, and they could have been God's gift, you know?
I'll tell you what, I think about it every day, and part of me used to get really sad over it, and part of me used to like really hustle on making sure that what works that we did have by African American voices, especially in the last century, were heard.
Yeah.
Now my focus is low key shifted.
Mm,
There's an entire new generation that doesn't know that trauma.
exactly. That's true.
And so I say, take this, use it, do as you will. I don't care what you make,
Yeah.
but become exactly what we were, missing in
Hmm.
the last century when it comes to that. Because I mean, as a as the last century, rolled, we started getting more and more artists, and by even the 60s and 70s, um, we were becoming more prevalent, not just in the classical arts, but in arts in general. I feel like if it wasn't for our culture, 1969 to
Mhm.
1970 wouldn't have been so impactful.
It was such a oof. I was just watching. I've been catching up on a lot of like old like 70s movies,
Hmm.
like that, and this the je ne sais quoi, like the just the vibe of it all just breathes art and creativity.
Right. It breathes it because that's what we were meant to do. That's
Mhm.
what we were always meant to do. And and I will say this, it's not just a black experience.
Yeah,
Every
so
human was meant to do it. But we got a knack for it.
yeah,
We do.
we
We do.
have a little bit of
Um
too,
and so, now here's this new generation that's never even, been alive in the 20th century. They're in a new millennium, they're in a new age, they're new in a new definition. And so, when I teach, I make sure that my students are literate. I
Wow.
need you to be able to write down your story,
Mhm.
especially if we are in the case where your story might be taken away.
Wow.
Anybody got time for that? I'm gonna make sure.
Mhm.
So, I'm really proud of my students for that reason. And I think no matter what I do in artistry, I'll always, have there'll always be like a really special place in my heart for education.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of my students, past and present. Um, and especially the other young Black men in my studio that have come across my studio, and you know, they came in to want to learn how to sing better, or get that part in the school musical, to realizing I can compose a whole musical myself if I wanted to, and them doing it.
Right? That's so beautiful though. That's
I love it. I love it. And it's really just the beginning. So, when it comes to young artists coming out into the scene, whether it's the rap scene or the classical or whatever, they always get so much criticism just because, of course, there's room to growth. I don't give them that quite yet. I just say, focus on your technique, look at your pedagogy, look at where you're heading, and strut.
mhm.
Strut before you realize there are so many people and reasons why, for as much as you want to go forward, there's so many people holding out your tail going, trying to hold you back. Strut
Right.
now so you don't feel it.
Right.
Um, and so, those are my students right now. Some of them, I feel old, I feel odd about it, but like some of them are literally about to graduate college
Oh, wow.
even this year, and head into disciplines and forces that I didn't even see
Yeah.
happening. And I go, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, like,
this is good. This is
yeah,
good.
yeah, I like this flavor. Okay. Oh
So
my gosh.
what are your thoughts though on like this is like I said art a lot of artists now a lot of them you're seeing that they may not have maybe like the skill set and the ability like just the skill set that you need to kind of what you assume an artist should be, right? There's an
Hmm.
assumption there that they're getting pushed to the forefront, and the ones who actually have the drive, the skill, and the ability are kind of getting ignored because they don't really have a desire to be the loudest one in the room. They just know that they have the skill to do
Yeah.
what they need to do. Like, what are your thoughts about that? Because I feel like in some way there's this contention between that when it comes to about artists these days. It's
Oh
like
yes.
so what are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, um, when it comes down to it, you can definitely tell the ones that always known who they are in the first place versus the ones that just want to be seen. You want to
Mhm.
be seen? Go outside. You want to be seen? Wear something different. You want to be seen? You want to be really seen? Strip, get naked. I don't know. Um, but you want to be known and received and
Mhm.
loved by a community and all that stuff. That's what you really need to look for. Those artists that always know that they have, it's because they have a community behind them. They have third spaces where they can be as flawful as they need to be. You know what I mean? They can express their flaws and they don't need to be judged. The ones
Right.
that are just need to be seen, they literally don't have the capacity to be wrong. So they don't even practice on how to, actually become. They just go, well, this needs to be right, and da 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 da. I see it all the time. I see it not just in students, I see it in a whole host of adults. How do you think the youngins get it? It's the parents going, well, I don't know if this is good enough. Da, 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 da. That
Mm.
trickles back into the children. Just
Yeah.
like we, at our age too, have to realize how to pour love back into ourselves. That
Hmm.
trickles back too. So it's the young artists that have a third space to be absolutely anything they need and realize, hey, this should also be my standard for how I present myself at home,
Hmm.
and realize I can be tired, I can be stressed, I can be voice cracking up the hizite, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then the same thing in your state of practice and everything. Where you go, whether it's school, whether it's that first contract, whether it's whatever. No matter how old you are,
Yeah.
you have every space to make mistakes if you'd like,
Yeah.
right? And still be such a artist about it, still be such an entrepreneur about it, still be such a marketer about it. Anything. I mean, even when it comes to marketing itself, I always say half of what you learn from marketing is from learning from the mistakes. And
Mm.
that's data. It's all data. It is all data. So it's that. It's the third spaces. It's seeing your experience as data and literally just learning from it. It's realizing, and I think I told you this phrase before. This is actually going to be in one of my singles that are coming out soon, Hearth. But there's a tagline in the song that I say, "Anikwa chia ikwe," which means in Igbo, if you agree, your God agrees. If
Mm.
you speak what is burning so passionately in you will speak truth with you
Oh,
and
that's
agree. And those are the artists that I really seek succeed because they go, as long as I'm aligned here, it doesn't matter what
yeah.
it doesn't matter what I'm doing. So, and that kind of shows too that, like, some of our favorite artists, they start practicing that not when they finally get the role or the part. They start practicing that when they're still waiter or waitress at the restaurant. They're still practicing that when they're doing their coming out of their evening shift, when they talk to strangers,
Yeah.
when they are just communing to commune and everything.
Because
That's
they said it takes 10,000 hours to be an expert on what you're doing. Those
hmm
not every 10,000 hours is in public.
right.
And most of the majority of that is behind your closed doors, or just people didn't see that and then wonder when
Exactly.
you came out, came out of the hole because you've been practicing, you've been doing your thing. Why it's so like great is because you've been working on it when nobody was looking. You've been doing the work when nobody didn't need approval.
Yeah, right.
It came from
Right.
here.
Exactly.
So I
And
think, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
it's, sorry, but like and it's such an artist thing to say, but it's also a very human thing to say. And and it took me even longer to realize, oh, I'm not doing this for education or performance or pedagogy or, or anything like that. It's advocacy. That's what's
Mm,
been passed to me. That's what these teachers wanted me to see. They're advocating for me. They said, I've been in this team for how long? I'm an old man, old woman, da 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 da. It's you, though. You have the power of advocacy. And it's
yeah,
not the fact that, you have the ability to educate or to move entire moments or crowds or even mark your voice back in history. It's you have the power to educate and advocate for the next person that has
yeah,
the ability to hold that power. And and if you don't say it, it
mm,
won't be passed. It won't be passed.
yeah,
So now, that's where I am, and I think that's why I'm so interdisciplinary now, both within the arts as well as humanities, because advocacy comes in so many forms, and that's my art form now, and fashion design and directing, and even, let's see, being a director of Miss America Tourism.
yeah,
Because, I mean, let's see, Miss America Tourism is a whole pageant and everything, and it's international. So it is way past our borders, but it's all about how do we show people then and now. that the time to advocate for each other and yourself is never over.
Mm.
It's just begun. And it
Yeah.
starts with you and it starts with the people that you love and how you speak genuine love and power back into them. So
Right.
we make sure that we're really highlighting and uplifting women that deserve to be seen as so. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
As they.
Not just entrepreneurs, but people that have just always been there for their family and everything and anyone in between. Okay. And then you realize that's what needs to be, strutted around. That's the pageantry in it all. When you see this legacy of advocacy, you go, wow, okay, that's vivid. That's
Right.
brighter than any rhymestone that could ever be, placed in everything. So, yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at. I mean, even when it comes to, music recording and, with this whole project that I'm working on,
Yeah.
um, it's not about how many views. It's not about, okay, what's the best marketing plan? Of course I've done that. Of course I've done the work. It's too much. I'm tired. Like, you see this? Tired.
Hmm.
Um, but it really is, in the end of the day, all right, where's my line where I say, it is not about me anymore? It's
Right.
about the light that's being shown and who's being casted on it. If they see me, they see my shadow. It's
Right.
not about me anymore. And yeah, I, it, I've from what I'm seeing now, the artists that are doing that in a way that's unapologetic
I get it. Hmm.
work. And I hope that I can continue to even be a part of those ranks. I hope
Mm.
that I can continue to even become even more of a leader in that.
Yeah.
But the most I can do, even now, pass the torch, pass the spark, and
Exactly.
let that light shine.
Hmm. So obviously, the podcast is called My Why because
Mm.
everybody has a why behind what they do or don't do. Um, what is your why? Why do you continue on this journey no matter what you have to go through or deal with to do what you do? Like why? What is your why?
My why, let's see, let me put this so simply. Oh my gosh. Because this is something I really do pray about every day. I really do. Um, God keeps bringing me back so I can understand what presence means.
Wow.
And He brings me back through my ancestors. He brings me back through my grandfather. My grandfather is with me even right now.
Wow.
He brings me back through understanding my mother and father. And He
Hmm.
brings me back again and again each and every day so I can say, oh, you thought? Try again. Here's something else about presence that I want you to learn. Here's a really hard day where you're not going to have presence. How will you find that light back?
Right.
So when it comes to the why, it's simple as that: presence. I want to be the most present thing I can ever become with the world that has decided to love me. And
Yeah.
now the question is, how do I love that world just as much? And
Right.
I think especially in the Christian faith too, sometimes being worldly is really like, some Christians get the jitters about it and all of
Yeah.
that
It's like, oh Lord.
stuff.
Oh no.
Mm-mm. God, where do you think Jesus found that truth? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He so loved the world, and then what?
He gave his only.
Literally.
Yes.
So, it's not saying I'm Jesus or anything at all. Absolutely not. But I gotta look at how history has even taught me the lesson of
Yes.
presence. You know what I mean? The hero's journey is no more than a lesson on presence. And how do
Right.
you stay present towards that cause that you know is bigger than you and
Mm-hmm.
everything? And still be humble and still be so fulfilled by it and at the same time. So that's my why. It's presence. I want to be the most present version of myself each and every day in a way that I can do it. And even, the day that I leave this earth and everything, it will still be presence.
Right.
And I'll use it with my song. I'll use it with my words, and I'll use it with what action that I had. And I'll still be here because now I have a whole host of students that have become masters that
Right.
are practicing presence within themselves work.
So now we're going to do. I heard it on the gram, so I'm going to play like a clip through audio. I don't usually show it. I may, not. I don't know.
Everyone, my name is Sydney and I am a voice teacher, and this video is for all the people who think they sound like a dying cat when they sing. They just think, there's no way I can possibly sing. There's some tricks to make singing a little bit easier and more simple, because singing's supposed to feel easy. Step number one, say the lines. Don't sing them, just say them. See the line where the sky meets the sea. Next, you're going to do a really big yawn and say the lines while yawning. See the line where the sky meets the sea. You're gonna just try to sing it while making it just talking with air, if you will. See the line where the sky meets the sea. That should make it. That should ease a lot of stuff. Of course, singing is very specific to you and your own voice. This is just super vague way to try to get yourself out of your own way. Try it. Let me know how it goes. Let me know if you have any other questions and things.
So, what are your thoughts on that?
You know what? That's a really good clip if I've heard it. And and I can already hear what the average person might say to it. Well, easier said than done. Well, yeah, but my voice doesn't do that, or gabba 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 gabba. Like truly, and she really nipped it in the bud in the last part. Getting yourself out of the way. That really is the act of singing. Singing and speaking your truth back into existence is really getting yourself, like, speaking to a point where you are way past yourself. That's why I said, if
Yeah.
you go see me, and the light casted, it's as a shadow,
Mm,
right? Because if otherwise, I'm trying to get out of the way, so you get all that ray. So I loved what she incorporated in terms of technique. These techniques are as old as time, but are as relevant as our own human pedagogy.
right.
Speaking to singing, that has been the T and the key of bel canto singing since we have really.
Never heard that before. Like speaking to
Mhm.
singing. I thought. I mean, in my mind, I'm like, what would the transition be of that? But
You're already in the transition. We only got one of these. We only got
oh,
one of these. So how else are we gonna be? And it's people are like, yeah, well, yeah. I go, well, okay, well, now put it together. What do you think is the difference between you using this and you using this? Ain't no
right.
difference. So, since let's see, the classical period and honestly the late Baroque period and everything, bel canto style and the Italian style has always been practicing. And not just bel canto. So many world cultures have been practicing the art of speaking back into singing, which is really how you project yourself with clarity and support in your speaking is going to be a key way of how you're going to access the nuance and flow of singing, right? And I think public speaking and even comedy is a really big contender for how this is really applied. Oh
That's
yeah. Oh,
interesting.
absolutely. The most colorful voices that we know are speakers.
You know what? Because they always talk about the inflection you do in a certain word can make a difference in if the joke is funny or not.
Exactly.
So if you say a curse word and you say it a certain way, it makes it funny as opposed to just saying, "Oh, I could
Exactly.
not
Exactly.
do that."
And and then, another thing, which is why, I'm also a poet and I'm always, someone that advocates for the literary arts. And even, this year I'm starting to create even more events and programs to help, boost the literary arts.
Yeah.
Um, let's see, one of them being Blue Lotus, coming
Mm-hmm.
soon. Yes, God. Let's see. But the realty is that, when you support that spoken word to a
Mm-hmm.
certain it
The
becomes
inflection.
projected. It
Yeah.
really does. And so even let's see, in the operatic tone and stuff, we don't just say mi chiamami Mimi, right? That is a little underspoken when it comes to the operatic tone. But if you say mi chiamami Mimi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Already you can hear the rest of your phonation align more with what it's ready to do next. So there's not as big of a jump between singing and singing. You put it together.
Yes. Eat me. Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's why I also, reference, public speakers as well. They're doing that so much. They are as fearless as pop singers when it comes to
Mhm.
it. And it's kind of like it takes a lot of balls to even, amount yourself to that. So, speaking of singing, such a big thing, looking at what is quite literally being said rather than, well, how do I, and passing so many avenues of literacy just so you can sound pretty, when actually all the keys of what you need to do in singing it is in the words. It's in the words. Words are so powerful. They are so, so, so powerful.
Wow.
Literally, and that's why, you look at sheet music, whether it was, classical and written all the way back like hundreds of years ago, or now, some of them don't give you directions, right?
But it's
Why?
I'm just in my mind. I think don't get me wrong. Don't get me telling lies, but that's not why people say you have to read sheet music.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, and there's one thing to read like musical manuscript, like the notes and stuff. It's another thing to actually read what is inspiring that manuscript. And it's the
Right.
words. The words are always going to back it up. That is the key attribute. And that's why I always try to, do as a director, make sure that my cast, whether it's high schoolers or professionals, they understand we have to go by the words always, always, always. And that's what the audience is going to take first. The audience is always going to hear what you said before they realize you said it in such a way.
Like
You know what I mean?
like you said, musical theaters when they're singing the words. Or okay. Okay.
Yeah. And so, I think even to use a relevant, reference with Define Gravity by Wicked,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yes.
He, let's hold space. Let's hold some space for, for Divine Gravity. But that's the tea. People aren't just hearing, oh wow, what a voice, what a powerful voice. No, they're going, everything that she's saying is
Hmm.
something that I've been missing when it comes to telling myself, and specifically telling my inner child.
Yep.
It's time for you to start flying. It's
Yep.
time for you to let yourself go and
That's why
become
everybody
free.
talks about that's
Exactly.
that part.
Right. And so when you speak that agency back in yourself, it's onekwachiaikwe. It's that enfant becoming alive. And so when you get to the end of the song, it doesn't matter who you are. Everyone's ready to do that war cry.
Yep.
And they go, I didn't know I had
Yes.
that in me. I didn't know I had that in me. Now that wasn't even full voice. That wasn't even full voice. That's
But you got the gist, okay?
Thank you. But isn't that crazy though? A whole audience that don't got vocal training like that, but is suddenly doing your war cry. They didn't have to sing through the rest of it. They felt those words and they said, I'm ready. I'm ready. Ah, and all that fun stuff. When you connect to the words, you get the recipe of how to connect the rest of your will back
Hmm.
into that voice in such a profound way. Now it's an effort of how do I encourage these words to become alive again? So
Yeah.
from that, she said, make space. She said, oh, right, you got to go ahead and really make space. Especially in the American culture, I think we have a knack within our spoken vernacular to quite literally shorten ourselves, right? And in moments where we really want to be prideful and everything, we'll be big as we want. But that's
Oh.
not always the tea. Hold on, I gotta adjust this to stop speaking. Um, let's see. But in the end of the day, when it comes to really acts, it's not just a metaphorical. Oh, we need a safe space and
Mhm. Yeah.
no,
You need
you
a
need
safe
space.
space.
Yeah.
You
So
have
I always,
that. You could feel. Oh, you feel that differently.
yeah,
This is a safe space for us.
right. And so when she says, I'm holding space for this, and, at first I was kicking at it too, but like, no, it's tea. To be that powerful, you need to hold space. And so I told all my students too, especially the ones that don't like to practice at home. I don't care what you think. I don't care what your parents think. I don't care what, people that you don't even think, your neighbors think. Hold space. If you want that part, you need to hold space. And you need to hold space wherever you are. That's real tea. You want to get into this artistry? It's not, oh, let me practice when I really need to before no, it's let me practice
Wow.
holding space for myself,
Mm.
for my flaws, and then soon every single victory that I see myself do. So then when I go into a space where no one wants to hold it for me, I don't got to worry about it.
But I think that goes into and you're speaking to auditioning, right? So, Lord, it's fine.
Heck, I'm speaking towards anything. That it don't have to be. auditioning. Sometimes it could be an interview or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. Because what came to mind is it's basically adding confidence to what you're saying. It's
Exactly.
to my mind, it can translate to just being confident because you could tell when somebody comes in truly confident in what they're doing, you feel that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Even if they're dead ass wrong for it.
yeah. Or if they're scared, in
Yeah.
that moment they found confidence in it.
Yeah. No, truly though. I mean, it's that, and it's a physical aspect. You really do have to start physically with it. When it comes to finding confidence in your body, what do you got to do? You got to literally work that out, and you can't just start, like a bodybuilder. You got to start from the beginning. What is your body meant to do in the simplest aspects, right?
Right.
Oh, I want to start running more. Okay, walk. Well, I want to start running more though. Okay, well, when was the last time you ran? Oh, I've never really done that before. Okay, well, make space for running.
Yeah.
Walk.
Because you work your way up.
Exactly. And that's the same thing with the voice. That backspace and everything is making space for all and this is where the practice of
You getting a
the
lesson.
voice can turn into a real, right. I mean, hey, hello. Um, but this is where the practice of a voice can really turn into an actual science. I mean, and it is an actual science. In order to access more frequencies, you quite literally need to hold a bigger space for it. In order for us to see more of the universe, we need bigger what? Telescopes.
Wow.
We
Yeah.
need bigger, I mean, we need bigger satellites and everything. And those
Yeah.
things aren't huge for no reason. We are trying to capture even just a tiny amount of what this universe can offer us. We need to hold a lot of space for it because now we're realizing it's a lot of space. Same thing with the voice. We harbor an entire overtone series where
Mm,
we're not just ever, whether we're speaking or singing, we're not ever just saying one note or one kind of like frequency. It's a whole host of it. It's a rainbow. It's like a literal visual spectrum, but in sound. So when you're training to sing, you're not just honing that one note. You're saying, I need everyone associated with this note to fall in line so I
mm,
can do this to my fullest flourishing. That is the bel canto technique. When you connect your speaking to your singing with that in mind, you don't just get your note.
right.
You get the ping. You get everything associated. You get people to go, wow, why did that feel so sparkly? You listen to operatic sopranos and,
Yeah.
they make your ears ring and you go, where's that
Mm,
coming from? That's that understanding in real time. That's the
yeah.
science coming and connecting with the confidence.
Yeah.
It's all coming together in that one moment. And when you turn that serendipity into a practice, then it turns into mastery.
I always wonder this. Honestly, I'm going on a little tangent because I need to ask you this question because you will understand it.
Hmm.
You know those sing the when you hear somebody sing and it's one of those singers that sings something to the point that it just touches like makes people cry.
Mm.
Can't even you can't even control the emotion between that person's voice and what they're singing to you. I forgot there's a words for it. Like it's like a certain type of voice that is just angelic. That is angelic. I've only heard it a couple times with certain people. Like I've heard obviously people sing very very well, but there's an angelic level of singing. You know what I'm
Hmm.
talking about?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like what is that?
Honestly, I think it depends on the beholder. I really do. I think, if me alone, I could not try to define it because it really depends on your state of flow. And I think that's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah.
It's flow being realized and coming back to you. You giving the performer the space to become anything, and the reaction is something almost otherworldly, almost
Yes.
angelic. That's them flowing so much. You can't help but to flow with them. And so
Wow.
now, in an almost spiritual way, you guys are holding hands. You're like,
Yes.
ah,
Yes.
I mean, I think it's the same feeling that we get when we see the divas of the past and present really showcase their skill. And it's like, it's almost to the point where you want to literally sing out with them and to the point where you realize you can.
Yeah.
Or in dance, when you see a certain dancer and they
Yes.
doing something
Just
something.
connects different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you think, ooh, 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 and you realize, ooh, ooh, am I doing that too? Hold on. That's flow. So honestly, that's the best way I can explain it. What you're feeling in terms of the angelic aspect, I think anyone can possess that. I think everyone has the heart to possess that.
Yeah,
That's flow, and that is different. Flow doesn't happen every day. Flow
right.
doesn't happen with
That's why
everyone.
I only see it every, I see it every whenever I catch it, but it's not an everyday thing. And I don't think it's something you can force.
No, not at all. If anything, you have to not just make the space, you have to claim that space as sacred. Nothing on earth, hell, or heaven can literally penetrate the sacred space that you're making with your audience.
Yeah,
And when you have that, your audience is all in to the point. I mean, again, we don't have all of America doing that war cry from Wicked for no reason. You know what I mean?
yeah. That
That is that was a sacred space I was telling.
everybody was. I'm telling you, my sisters, they're like, I can't stop saying it. They were going and saying it left and right.
But you know what? If Cynthia was in the room, she would say, "Well, that's simply what happens when I connect back to my inner child." And then
Wow.
you realize that space has to be safe. That's a child in that room. You got to protect that space. And
Mm,
so when you have an artist doing something like that and them wanting you to still be a part of that moment, it's
yeah,
going to turn into anything.
and it was a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
I
And
love
there's
it.
so many other
Yeah,
aspects like that. I mean, and I've definitely had moments like that myself, and other people tell me that too. And, I'm not feeling angelic personally. If anything, I'm going, really? Okay, cool. Listen, yeah, okay, I'll take it. Um, but
because I think
I
it's the
mm,
place you go to, obviously, and within you, and then when you come back to Earth, because you
yeah,
went to heaven, and then when you come back
yes,
to Earth, you're like, wait, what? What are you thinking?
yeah, yeah. And that's all about a flow. And flow isn't just like a, metaphysical thing that they're talking about in crystal shops and everything. It is psychological research. It's something now that we're all in every discipline realizing that we go into. It is the basis of performance psychology, not just for artists, but even athletes. There's a reason why that hustle don't stop. They're in flow too. That's why so many, men and women and children feel like they have the strength to do anything that that athlete can do. That's the flow of seeing them do it and going, yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
maybe let me start, and one day maybe I'll be able to flow with them.
I
I,
think
I
that
mm,
I'm sorry, because we all in another. I'm just gonna let this go where it's gonna go. So I do. Do you remember that movie Soul?
yes,
And that
absolutely.
part in there when he was playing, and it just that was the first time I recognized when I'm writing a story or creating characters. There's that I was like, there's that place I go. I can't I never could describe the place. I just
Mm-mm.
know the place, and
It's
then it
not meant to be described. It's
now
just somewhere you got a journey.
and next thing you know, when you come out of the space, you're like, oh, it's been 5 hours.
Yeah.
But that's I didn't know I was scientifically
Oh
um
yeah.
proven. I thought that I guess it is. I thought it was more metaphorical, but just to know that it's like no, this is like a really proven fact. And I'm like, oh,
It is
that's
the
so interesting.
it is a part of our human psychology and our human experience to experience flow and what it means to be outside of ourselves and still totally in the moment.
Mm,
And what's so funny? The main character of Soul is a black man.
yeah.
And in our culture, that's like probably one of the last people you expect to willingly flow.
Mm,
But the fact that we, as black men, as black women, can find flow still in these circumstances says
right.
a lot about our power. It
Oh,
says a lot. It says a lot. And so when you see forces that try to stop that, watch. That says
mm.
a lot about what they actually see, but they're not willing to get into.
Ooh, you know what? I can't even go there because we're gonna be going 5 hours. So let me say this last thing though. Say this last thing before we go into the be encouraged section. I've said this on the last on a couple episodes, and y'all gonna hear it again because I want everybody to get this. I think depression will go down once we realize that our whatever our thing is, creatively, whatever our thing is, we just do it. It don't have to be monetized. If you have a creative knack to paint, paint for an hour a week. Release that, because it's something that gets chained. Really, you're chaining that part of you that needs to breathe.
Mhm.
You're suffocating that. And like I said, because we have social media, it's assumed that if I'm not going to do it because I can't make no money off of it. Has nothing to do with money. This has nothing to do with monetizing anything. This has everything to do with saving your imagination.
Mhm.
God has given all of us an imagination, a place where flow is, a place where creativity lives. And if you just accept it, whatever discipline it is, and for me, it's writing. For you, so many different areas in arts. For somebody, it could be painting. For somebody, it could be doing a sculpture. When you touch clay, you can't explain why you feel this way. You just do. This it could be so many things. It could be being a plumber. It doesn't matter. Just go do what that thing is. Just start with once a week for an hour, and I think it would help us, and it helped a lot of the depression that we're seeing. And yeah. So I just want to make sure I said that
That's
again.
powerful.
I
That's
want
so
I want somebody to hear that, and I want somebody to be okay with not and kind of you almost need to turn social media off. I'm gonna be honest. You almost need to
yeah.
turn it off and get back to that imagination nation in your mind where God has given all of us, and where your childlike, where that child inner child lives. It's still there.
Mhm.
It's still there, and it can be, even if you think it's colored in dark in a black crown. You can come in there now and change the color and make it yellow, make it orange. You can bring color back to it. It's not
Absolutely.
over. It still lives there. You just need to come back into the room and let's just redo these walls.
Right.
And
Right.
leading into the Be Encouraged section of the podcast, this is something I do for my guests. That is a gift I give every guest. And before I do any episode, I ask God to give me something that you want them to know that they can take with them. And for you, I got it instantly. This is literally what I got. Sing, just sing. Stop thinking and sing from the
Stop
mountain.
thinking. No thoughts.
Thinking and sing from the mountaintops.
Hey. Hey. Amen. Oh my gosh. Exactly. Exactly.
That's
Hey.
literally I read it exactly how I got it. Sing, just sing, stop thinking, and sing from the mountaintops! Exclamation point.
You know what's so funny about that? Whenever I really gotta talk to my ancestors, I will go up the mountain and do just that. Literally. So that is like, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. That just came from you through your spirit, from your intuition. I'm like, wow, that's my truth. Listen to her. Hello. Oh my gosh. Yes, it's so true. It is so true. And those moments, those highest moments, and those moments where you feel like ain't nobody can connect back into how you're feeling. Guess what? They can in such a simple but profound way. Sing for the mountaintops, and you realize that the world will
Singing
still receive
for
you.
you, and this might be for some other people, but for you, singing is healing.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Healing,
Specifically.
singing is a healing place for you.
Yes.
So when I say sing, that actually encompasses a lot of things for you. To maybe an average person, that's just a word that, oh, okay, yeah, sing. No, 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 no.
No.
Singing for you particularly, you knew exactly what I meant when I said that word sing.
Yes. Absolutely. No. I mean, and to me, it's like
Do it.
to sing. It really means like I gotta speak my truth. I gotta sing light. And on Monday during the inauguration, I had to sing light, and that was so hard. That is so hard because I felt so dark.
Yeah.
There are people I encourage. You got to sing distraction, sing fire into the places that are trying to destroy you.
Mhm.
Renew it, and celebrate in song. Truly,
Mhm.
truly, truly, truly. Sing it all. Sing your passions into fruitions. Sing those dreams that you are experiencing with your eyes wide open
Yes.
back into it. That is the inhibition that's keeping you from realizing, that's it.
It's a
That's where I'm
beautiful
supposed to be
song.
going.
It can be a
Hmm.
beautiful song that
Yep.
feeds your soul, that takes you to a place where it's just like where you want to be, gives you peace, inner joy,
Hmm.
all those things encompassed. And I'm telling you, you got to stop thinking your way too. You got to start singing your way too.
Right. Singing is, let's see, next to loving, one of the biggest actions that
Mm-hmm.
you can partake as a human.
Yeah.
Um, and to your audience, especially too, I already know your audience is about to be popping. Like your audience, I know. Listen, I know they pop in and they're severe. All right. Um, you guys are literal beings of love at the most highest,
Mm-hmm.
but that's something you got to practice. Love is an action. And when you love yourself as much, even for a morsel, you'll sing it back into your world, even if it's just speaking. And then you realize it's all the same.
Yep.
It's all the same. It's always been the same. And you
Yep.
will be just the same and brand new for it too.
Yep. And with that, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave it right there because I know that somebody listening to this particular episode got something out of it, and they will take it and they will go and they will color the room
Mm,
of their life and of their soul, and to be able to just go after what they have been desiring to do. And I just thank you so much for having this conversation with me
thank
and
you.
taking the time because I know you a busy person. So
Listen, I mean,
you,
next week they're gonna see me at Harvard University saying the same thing.
I know
So,
that's right. So
mm-mm,
it's just amazing, and I love you. You know that,
I love
and
you
I'm just so excited just for what's to come for you. And
too.
and like I said, everybody listening, I just appreciate you listening to this episode today. Like I said, take whatever you need from it and go fuel your passion and follow your dreams. And that's it. So bye.
Bye. Thank you.